Welcome. Today we're plunging into, well, a really complex figure, John Brown. Often labeled radical, sometimes madman. You've gathered some fascinating sources that push past those simple labels. Our mission today, to reevaluate his legacy and maybe find some surprising lessons, actually, for, contemporary allyship and racial justice. Okay, so let's unpack this. Who was John Brown? Let's start at the very beginning. Born 1800, into a family that was deeply religious, yes, but also strongly anti-slavery, Calvinist tradition.
Right. And that Calvinist background, that sense of divine mission, is absolutely crucial. Then there's that moment, age 12 you mentioned, witnessing the brutal beating of an enslaved boy.
Yeah, he said it was then he declared eternal war with slavery, a pretty defining moment.
It really is, and you see how that trauma sort of merged with his religious conviction.
Mm-hmm.
Sources paint him as this kind of latter-day Moses, feeling called to fight what he saw as the nation's greatest sin. Now, for decades, he did try peaceful routes, anti-slavery work, even being a conductor on the Underground Railroad.
But it wasn't enough.
Apparently not. Those passive efforts just didn't bring the change he felt was needed. Then came these catalytic events, the murder of Elijah Lovejoy in 1937. That really shook people.
A white abolitionist editor killed for his views.
And then, maybe even more importantly, the Dred Scott decision in 1857.
The ruling that basically said Black Americans weren't citizens and slavery could expand, devastating.
Utterly. And that seems to be what pushed Brown from, all talk to demanding action. He became convinced, quite grimly, that the sin of slavery will never be purged away, but with blood.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. His Black orientation, as some sources call it. How different was this from other white abolitionists at the time? What did it actually look like?
It was quite radical for the era. I mean, many white abolitionists supported the cause, but often from a distance, sometimes paternalistically. Brown, though, he moved his family to North Elba, New York, a Black farming community, lived among Black families.
Embedding himself.
Yes. He worked closely with giants like Harriet Tubman. Frederick Douglass was a confidant. And Douglass's famous description of Brown, in sympathy, a Black man. That speaks volumes.
So genuine partnership, not just sympathy.
It seems so. A level of solidarity that was, frankly, almost unheard of for a white man then.
But that commitment led to violence. Bleeding Kansas, the Pottawattamie Massacre. How did the sources handle that?
The sources don't gloss over that, but they do provide context. Kansas was already in a state of, low-grade civil war over slavery. His actions there, like Pottawattamie, are framed less as random terror and more as a strategic, albeit brutal, retaliation, intended, he said, to strike terror in the hearts of slave owners.
A calculated act within a conflict zone, essentially.
That's the argument presented. Then you have Harper's Ferry. Militarily, a disaster, obviously. The planned uprising didn't happen, but morally, it became his hour of triumph.
Yeah.
His trial, he turned that courtroom into a pulpit.
Giving these powerful speeches, predicting more bloodshed.
Exactly. Reiterating that prophecy. The crimes of this guilty land will never be purged away, but with blood. He almost became, as one source puts it, 1,000 times more effective as a preacher than as a warrior.
So he becomes a martyr in the North, a catalyst for the Civil War, and his image just keeps shifting over time.
Precisely. Criminal, martyr, terrorist, revolutionary. Depends on who you ask and when.
So, thinking about all this, what does it mean for you listening today, especially around racial justice and solidarity? His life seems to offer a, challenging blueprint. First, maybe moving from theory to action. He didn't just talk, he acted dangerously, became a co-conspirator. Makes you think about comfort zones.
Right. It challenges that passive allyship model.
Second, using privilege. His whiteness gave him a platform, especially during the trial, that Black abolitionists wouldn't have had. He put slavery itself on trial.
A stark example of leveraging privilege for disruption.
Third, that Black orientation, truly listening, collaborating, moving past being a white savior to being maybe a white comrade.
On equal footing, that's key.
And finally, maybe the toughest one, The courage of unpopularity or even moral recklessness for justice, he alienated allies, was seen as extreme even by many abolitionists. Profound change sometimes require that.
Choosing to be an outcast for the cause. Sacrificing comfort, reputation.
John Brown was definitely a man of his time, shaped by its violence and convictions, but that vision of an integrated, just society achieved through radical means. It still resonates, doesn't it? His soul, like the song says, goes marching on. He challenges us, I think, to move beyond just belief to active, maybe uncomfortable solidarity.
I agree. His legacy is a potent warning against, self-satisfied moderation. It pushes you to ask when decisive action is needed, even when it's hard. As Thoreau put it, sometimes planting one heroic seed can yield a harvest of heroes.
Thank you for diving deep with us on this complex figure today. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and maybe ask yourself, where can I plant that heroic seed?